Alright, I think I've got it pretty well dried out here. I was blow drying it. My little, that was my little printout that I turned over. So be right side up. I Mod Podged the wood and with some, I actually don't use Mod Podge, it's polyacrylic clear coat. And I put it in this bottle because it's easier to work with. And so I dried it out real good. Now I went and finally changed my water because my water was nasty. So I'm going to take the paintbrush and start going over it with water. Just plain old water, nothing fancy, until I can see the printing and the printout. I want to make sure it soaks all the way through the paper on here. So I'm just going to go back and forth all the way through it and soak her down. Alright, now here comes the difficult part. You can start to see a little bit where the stuff is coming through, and this is the hardest part of the whole project, and that is rubbing it with your finger and putting enough pressure on it so that some of the paper begins to roll off while leaving the print onto the wood. You'll get a feel for it after you try it. You know, you have to try a couple of times to get it 100% right, because it's something that you have to feel and learn. So I'm just picking off the edges of this paper here, and you'll see as you roll your finger back and forth, you can start to see the wording come out underneath the paper. So the paper is not what stays on there. We want the printer's ink and just the wood. So you can see it starting to come through, and that was, I just wet it with my paintbrush. And this is nothing fancy, I'm telling you. I didn't do any fancy transfer stuff. Plain Jane paper, copy paper, and a plain Jane printer, which is like a, what is it, a Samsung printer, just regular old toner, nothing special. And you can start to see that wording coming out. You want it to be, you want to sometimes do it really gentle when you're on top of a letter, and then sometimes you can pull it, but you'll get the feel of it as you go. You'll start to feel, you know, you don't want it pulling up the ink, so sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not. Now this was, you know, like I said, the one I did the other day, and you can see how it came out. I painted this wood, and then I Mod Podged a butterfly on top of it. So this is just a little simple sign. These make great little gifts for people. And as you can see, it didn't cost me not a single dime. Everything I have on here I already had in my house, and didn't cost me anything to make. And I drilled 2 holes up in the top, and I put a wire through to be able to hang this. But I mean, there are so many other options on that. You can put jute twine, you can use a ribbon, you can put a bow on it. You can make it all kinds of girly if you want, or you can make it masculine just like this, plain as can be. Just depends on what your saying is. Of course, this is the Serenity prayer, which seems to be a very popular one. I would not suggest doing this type of thing in like production work if you had a bunch of stuff to do, because I will tell you, you can eventually rub your fingertips right about raw, so you do have to be a little careful with that and how you're doing it. But this is coming out. It's coming out nice. So just scraping off barely with my finger. Now there are occasions when I actually use a scraper like this if it needs to be done. I can use that. I try not to because it goes all the way through a lot of times and it can mess everything up. So, um, just use it on someplace really hard, preferably not where you have wording if you're going to do that. So, and you will see as you go, if it starts to dry or anything like that, you want to re-wet it, re-wet, and make sure everything's covered really well. And it does better as long as it stays wet. So, alrighty. I'm trying to do my YouTube and my Facebook, so if you can, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube, and it's Deanna Carroll, and it'll have a little thing on it that'll say Ivy Creates, which is my website, ivycreates.com. That's my daughter's name. And then I also have a page under Deanna Carroll, which is separate from my profile page. It's not the same. It's an actual business page called Deanna Carroll, as well as one in Ivy Creates. I have a couple of different ones. So, but go and follow my page so you can see, like, if I do lives and all that kind of stuff. You can actually see it when it comes up. And make sure you go and follow, and then like it, and then share it to the world. Spread the love, pay it forward. That's what I like to say. I'm always very supportive of my fellow YouTubers and Facebookers and all that good stuff. I know it's not an easy thing to do. You put yourself out there a lot. Alright, so right now this prayer is probably more than anything. It is just all kinds of everything because of everything that's going on in the world. And, you know, whatever you do does not have to be perfect. It can be, it's the little imperfections that make it custom and make it interesting, make it pretty. Alrighty. So I'm going to roll across this way a little bit, get some more of that paper off of there, and you can really start to see the wording coming out, and you just keep rolling it off. That's all there is to it. And like I said, for these really tough spots, very, very lightly with the scraper, very lightly, so that it doesn't get down too far. Especially around the edges, it just helps. I'm using very, very light pressure on this scraper because you see it's sharp. It'll pull a piece right off in a quickness. Now I have to go back and sand that. And by far, no one's perfect. No one's perfect. In Bob Ross's world, it's happy accidents. That's what we have. Happy little, they're not even accidents. They're, you know, thrilling. I love Bob Ross. He's so awesome. Was so awesome. My dude. So in our world, I'm carrying on the torch for him. In our world, we're going to have some little happenings, and we're going to make it. I had a boss one time that told me, there are no wrong things. There is nothing bad that you could possibly do that unless you can't fix it. And that has stuck with me. A couple of things from older bosses have really stuck with me. See why you got to be careful. See how it comes off right there. Alright, so I'm going to put that one back away. Go back to the fingertips. I want to put a little bit more water on it. Make sure it's not drying out on me. Yeah, I had done a really cool project the other day, and I have a USB splitter, and my USB splitter was like, I don't know, is acting crazy, and it messed up my whole microphone. I mean, just messed it all up. So, um, it sounded horrible, but the project was great. I loved the project. And so that's probably what I'm going to do, is work on that some more and do another project just like the one I did, because it was worth doing again. It's a cool project. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it's a really cool project. It was I was using fancy napkins on a cigar box, and making it like a kind of like a Mod Podge. Well, it is Mod Podge, I should say, without the mod in the podge, but it is a Mod Podge, and I actually used one of these napkins and put it across the little cigar box. Oh goodness, I got my W there. Alright, gotta be careful. I wasn't paying attention, I was talking. Alright, light touch, light touch. Now, here's the thing. When I get done with this, and after, I should say, unless you're going to use paint, you can use paint before, but this would be after you use the final clear coat. You can take a Sharpie and fill that little piece in. Nobody will ever know the difference. It's just a little tip. Now, if you use paint, like acrylic paint or something like that, which a lot of times, depending on the letter, I find it hard to use a paintbrush, because if it's really small, or depending on what it's doing, it can be really hard. So, but I can take a little bit of acrylic paint on a paintbrush and right there before I Mod Podge, or clear coat it, and that'll finish that little piece of that letter, and you will never know. And it's important to know how to troubleshoot things. I'm a person that believes that everybody has a gift of some sort, and I solely, truly believe that with all my heart. Everybody has a gift. It's just a matter of finding what that gift is. And we will work, and if you have questions or anything like that, feel free to ask on anything, like on my Facebook page or on there. You can always ask me questions. I don't mind. Nasty. Now, I do want to go make sure that I'm getting all the paper off that I can, because the one that I did before, this one here, now I've done other ones too that I really, really liked, but this one here, it seems like I might have missed a little bit of the paper here, which is fine, because this is not supposed to be, and you can see I messed up on this little piece right here where the G is. It's supposed to be somewhat rustic. It's not supposed to be perfect. Never anything that I do is going to be perfect. People always used to call me when I did furniture design and showrooms, and I've done art, and I'm a floral designer. I've done all kinds of things, and people would always say, "Oh, you're such a diamond in the rough." It's like an insult, but I guess for the rest of my life, I will never be a polished diamond. I will always be a diamond in the rough. But the other thing I can say is that I am not only am I a diamond in the rough, I'm also a luxury item, because I am a non-essential. So a luxury item, diamond in the rough, is what I am, and that's okay with me. That's my gift, and I guess I'm going to have to give it to the world, and show it to people and share it with people. If that's what I'm supposed to be, a diamond in the rough luxury item, that's what I will be. So you can see it getting brighter and brighter and brighter the more I rub. It gets really getting every little piece of that paper off as much as possible. Now the idea is that last super thin layer is probably going to stay on the board, and when you hit that Mod Podge to it, it'll brighten everything up and soak right into that super thin layer. So then it'll look bright and shiny and pretty, and well, as much as a plain piece of block of wood can look bright, shiny, and pretty. But you can see it's getting there. And mostly right now I think it's wet enough, but I am trying to get some of the rubbings off so I can see what I'm doing, because I can't always see. So I'm going to try to start on this end now. And rub a little bit more. I am putting a little pressure on this one, just because I can see it needs it. All right. All right, I've rubbed on this joker enough to create my own little genie popping out, because it's just a lot to rub, but you know, it's worth it in the end. So now I need to decide. I think I'm going to use paint, because I think I can paint that little edge at the W without any problem. I have got to go get me a new office chair, because this one here is killing me. It is. So I'm going to find my smallest brush, which is this one here. Move the face mask and the Mardi Gras mask and pull out my black paint. This is just acrylic, and y'all please don't think me crazy, but well, I mix just a touch of gold, and I use the pretty golds, different ones. Usually I use like this one, the Folk Art Royal Gold. As you can see, it's rather empty, and I mix that with a lot. I mix it usually with my reds and my blacks and my oranges, and that's just the way it is. So this is going to be brighter than what the rest of this is, but when it gets all coated, it'll be fine. It'll all match. So, and like I said, you don't have to do this. Part of the charm in this is that it does look rustic, and it should look rustic. So I couldn't do this on a small letter with a paintbrush. I do not have the patience for that. So there's our W, and I'm just going to dry it a little bit. Get the paint dry, the rest dry, and you can see there's still a little bit of paper left. It's still there, and I could sit there and rub and rub and rub forever, maybe rub off some more of it, but by the time you put the Mod Podge on it, I mean, you just see by the little white marks and stuff up on there. By the time you put the Mod Podge, you won't even tell. You won't even be able to see it. So that looks like it's pretty dry. Alright, back to my polycrylic. Polycrylic, Minwax polycrylic is what I use, and it works just like Mod Podge, and I can get a big old tub of it. for not that much. So anyways, as always, I am very generous with my Minwax. I like to use it in a generous way. Alrighty. And we'll pull out my big flat brush and wipe it off because it's got plenty of water on it. I do like this brush. Okay. So I'm just going to start spreading it. Make sure that I'm getting all those edges really well. No goop on it. Alright. Let's see. Now, this doesn't mean, because I'm putting this sealing coat on it, does not mean that I can't go back if I want to and paint something else on here, add to it, maybe Mod Podge something else onto it. I'm just using the extra to wipe around the edge, which this is a really rough piece, other than it's a rough piece of wood. It's not real fancy. So there are many things you can do. You can go back, you can add ribbons, bows, paintings, all that kind of business, and it'll look just fine. Now you see, you can't even barely see wherever I had the little mistake pulling up the lettering. And I'm going to wipe my brush off as much as I can, stick it back in the water, and dry it up a little bit. Now this is one coat of the polyurethane. You can probably do, or polyacrylic I should say, you could probably do several coats if you wanted to. I do not like shiny surfaces, so I have to do satin because I don't know what it is, but shiny, you know, like gloss, high gloss things don't make me happy. I think it comes from when I was a child. I can remember playing with a bucket of paint and painting something, and apparently I didn't stir the paint enough. This was painting walls, okay? I paint everything. But I didn't stir it enough, and since I didn't stir it enough, half the wall was shiny and half the wall was dull, and it drove me absolutely OCD insane. I mean, absolutely. So, that is a good reason right there not to ever like things that just are shiny all the time. Okay? And you can see it did, from the paintbrush, it did mix a little bit of that vintage blue duck egg, and that's quite fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait for this to dry a little bit longer. And it's mostly dry. It's you know, there's still a few little tacky spots, but most of it's pretty dry. And I will probably put another coat or something. And so that's our little serenity prayer. And this was just the easiest. This is a simple little piece of wire to hang it up with, and a little block of 1 by 6, I think it's 6 wood. And I already got a mess on my placemat here. So I just printed it out backwards, put the Mod Podge, or the polyacrylic Minwax on there, painted it on real generously, stuck it to it face down, went over it with water, let it dry, then came back and rubbed off all of the paper. And when I got done doing that, I corrected this little W piece here, and then I covered it with another layer of polyacrylic. So that is it. That's our little sign, our little gift. Just a little, as we say down here, just a little happy for you. A little happy to give somebody. So anyways, that's all. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, please go to Deanna Carroll's page and like it and follow it, and you know, also subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.